Spartans! What is your profession?
Okay, for this episode, we're going to be using the Smoothcast 326 plastic resin to fill our mold that we cleaned up before. And with this, because you can color this one, actually you can color all of them, but with this one I like to use the Smooth On So Strong Black, because we're going for a silver finish. The black works best for that silver finish. And to get that silver finish, we're going to be using the Smooth On Magic Cast Silver Bullet. It's a kind of faux metal powder that you use to give yourself a metallic finish on your resin cast. So we'll be using these three together to get the piece we want out of our mold. Okay. Alright, so I finally got this mold cleaned up and ready to roll. Alright, because we're going to be using our resins, and especially because we're going to be using something that's a powder, and this stuff especially because it's very fine, and these particles, even if you're really careful, will float up into the air and get into your lungs. And you really don't want this stuff in your lungs. Actually, no particles. Whenever you're working on something, whether you're sanding something, or you're applying some sort of finish, or even the resins you're using, wear a breathing mask. You know, they're cheap enough, and they're easy to use. And let's just pop it right on, and you're good to go. Okay. Oh. You're going to have to hear me through this because I really don't feel like talking and working when comes to this stuff. Well, maybe I'll have to dub over this part. Alright, so this is Smooth On Magic Cast, or Cast Magic, Silver Bullet Powder. Now it's a kind of metallic powder, but it's like not really metal. It's just a powder that simulates metal. When you're pouring this in, you don't want to just slap it in there because you might disturb the coating. You want to go as gently as possible. Put a little stick in front, let it hit the stick and then roll off. That'll reduce the friction it creates on hitting the piece. There you go. And now you're thinking, well, that doesn't seem a lot, but rotoscoping. So we really just want that gel coat to go everywhere first. Down you go in the crack pan. Now what you're going to do is gently go around and make sure it hits any panel. And the reason why I'm going gently is that I don't want to create a scrubbing effect with the liquid. I want to gently go into every crevice, but I don't want it to go by so fast that it actually scrubs the silver off the surface. Okay? Now, I'll tilt it like this and pull everything out of every crevice that way, so give a chance for bubbles to escape and for the liquid to replace the bubble, the areas that might have had air pockets. And I'll flip it over that side and tilt it as much as I can without spilling it out of the mold to do the same thing where it'll drain and just a little film of the liquid will be in there. And that way you kind of make sure that you're pushing all the air pockets and the air bubbles from remaining and replacing it with a thin film of liquid. You know, and doing it gently like that helps anything. And the thing about the 326 is that more of the liquid that you have in a confined area, because this stuff cures through heat, or one of the expels heat, and the heat causes the curing too, that you can have like a vicious cycle where too much of the stuff is in one area, in a pocket, and it heats up, and the heat will cause it to cure faster. And the more heat, more material. But if you spread the material out by slowly rotating it around and leaving a portion of it behind on the surface, you reduce the heat, and thus the cure time becomes longer. Now, if I just left it like this, it would pool into and center in the legs and the chest and the head, and that would heat up, and you'd be amazed at how quickly it'll set. And once it starts setting, it's a pain in the ass to loosen up. It just won't. You'll just have to leave it in there and have a slightly heavier piece than you wanted to. But as long as you're gently moving it around, you know, it'll stay more liquidy until it really starts to cure. 326 and 325 are some damn sticky stuff, and they will stick. You can wait an hour after it's cured and pour in another batch, and it will stick to itself. It doesn't delaminate, so you don't have to rush to do layers, which is great too, you know. It's starting to gel up now, so you can go slightly faster because the friction isn't that much, and what's happening is more material is left behind in coating now. And as it gels more and more material is going to be left behind. And right now I'm tilting it ever so slightly. I don't want to ooze out, but it will start congealing. What happens when it starts to cure is there'll be less and less material moving around, and so you'll actually be able to tilt it more. being a little too abrupt with it right now, but it is getting there. Because what you really want to do, and I'll show you later, is when it really starts to congeal, you really want it to get down there on those corners, on the top part. You really want it to get in there because you want a total, complete coating of the material everywhere, top and bottom, to make good rotocasting. The first one is always well, not always, but the one that's the trickiest, because you really want to hit all the spots, make sure there are the least amount of bubbles and imperfections, and get it in every corner and every edge. Now you see it's starting to gel up, so now I'm going to let it flow down into the trench, which is the sides, and slowly rotate it. Now let it fill up and flow, and then tilt it slightly, fill up and flow, tilt it slightly. Because now, before you were concentrating on getting it everywhere, now you're really concentrating on getting it on the edges, right in there, because this is the part you want to reinforce. The other parts are going to get coated no matter what you do because of the rotation. But that edge you really need for a large amount of material to get into the edges and the corners and everything. Okay, see, now we're getting that thickening going on here. I'm just letting it pool at the bottom, because I don't want to turn it right away. I want to keep as much of the stuff in the corners and in that edges here. We just want it to flow here. The top part has already got a nice coating going on. It doesn't need to be. And the next coating, when you do the next coating, it'll get a thicker coating. So it doesn't really need it as badly as the edges. All right. Now here's where it gets tricky. It will keep flowing very, very slowly, but it will keep flowing. So you shouldn't just leave it at this point and walk away. Keep an eye on that. You can now, watch something or, prop it up against something and just let it flow and just keep an eye on it. At some point, it'll just stop. But we did a pretty good coat on the first shot. So that means the second coat, if we're real careful, will work. But like I said, you need for it to cure a certain amount. Now, the pot life is 60 minutes. So if you leave it a good half hour, you're going to get to do a next coat. So get our timer, pop on 30 minutes, and come back and do it all again.